Videographer's happy. I'm allowed to proceed. So, we do things somewhat casually here. So I'll introduce myself. We'll have the panel each introduce themselves and their roles because they'll do it better than I could, and probably more succinctly. And then we'll get into some questions I'll start with. But at any point, if y'all have questions, raise your hand, and we would love to have questions from the audience as well. So this is kind of a casual dialogue between myself and the panelists to start. As we talked about, you're encouraged to ask questions at any time. We're going to ask them to focus on the story behind the story, things they might not tell everyone else, but they're going to tell us because we're the Gulf South and we're special, and they get to have really good food when they come here. We've asked them to talk about war stories, programs that maybe are upcoming, things we need to know about, ways you guys can access the government for help with your science, your business, all those kinds of things, and move it forward. And so with it, I'm James Zanewicz. I'm the Chief Business Officer at the Tulane School of Medicine and the Tulane National Primate Research Center. Myself, Patrick Reed from LSU Health, and Allison Best from Ole Miss put this thing on. We invited a few more of our friends this year. We think we have 12 universities represented at this point. And with that, I'd like to hand off to Joe. Hi,
everybody. My name is Joseph Conrad. I am a Senior Technology Analysis and Marketing Specialist with the National Cancer Institute's Technology Transfer Center. Also a native of New Orleans, went to high school here, Brother Martin, and graduated from Xavier University, where I got my undergrad in chemistry and my PhD in Washington at American University, and my law degree from Washington College of Law, George Washington University, now NIH, and very happy to be here and share some information with you guys.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lili Portilla. I'm with the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences. That's NCATS. It's one of the, it's the newest NIH center. It's been around for 10 years, but it's one of the 27 institutes at the NIH. My office, the Office of Strategic Alliances, has two main functions. One is administering the SBIR STTR program for the center. And the other is putting in place all of the collaborations that our internal R&D center has around drug development. We have a high throughput screening center at the NIH and MedChem focus. And we do tons of collaborations, some with your institution, actually. I'm happy to be here and, I guess inside baseball information on how to get money from the government, right? So, yeah. All right. Okay.
Michael.
Thank you. So, hi, everybody. My name is Michael Weingarten. I'm the director of the NCI SBIR Development Center of the National Cancer Institute. There are 23 institutes at the NIH that have SBIR programs. NCI has the largest. This year, our annual budget is $180 million. And right now, we have about 450 projects that we're funding. We fund technologies across the cancer space, so drug development projects being the largest part of our portfolio, but we're also quite active in funding areas like cancer imaging, radiation therapy, diagnostics, cancer diagnostics, research tools, and digital health. So it is a very broad-based portfolio. And in addition to the funding that we also offer a whole suite of different resource programs to our companies, which I'll be happy to talk about today.
Great. Well, let me kick off with a question. And Joe, I'll start with you if you don't mind, because you're closest to me. So you have the more traditional term technology transfer in your title, but you also have a twist of invention development and marketing in there. What does that mean in the context of the NIH, and how can that help people outside? How do you work with folks like those in the audience?
Okay, that's a good question. So unlike my colleagues here, I do not have money to give. So why am I on this panel, right? My role at the Tech Transfer Center is primarily to move technologies out of the labs into the private sector. So unlike my colleagues, I represent the intramural component of NIH. They represent the extramural component of NIH. So the extramural component sends money out. That's your grants, that's your, all of your grant related funding. For us on the intramural side, our role is primarily to license our technology out to companies or entrepreneurs who are starting companies to either build that company, expand existing pipelines, or help co-develop technologies, because everything that we do at the NIH intramurally is translational. We're trying to get it into patient populations. We don't have the statutory authority nor the capability to manufacture, market, and get those technologies to the patients that we are trying to reach. So we have to partner with outside companies to do that. So an easy example, everyone's familiar with Merck, everyone's familiar with Gardasil, right? Gardasil was a creation from the NIH. Merck partnered with us to co-develop that. And then they basically commercialized it and got it to the patient populations that needed it. And that's how I'm here to, share that type of information with you. If you're a company, if you're an entrepreneur starting a company, you're looking for technology, you're going to talk to me about that because that's what we do. We out-license our technology and collaborate. My colleagues, they have money.
You're saying people should buy you a drink?
Yes.
Yes. You don't have any money. Yeah, exactly. So Lili and Michael, as we heard, you're the extramural part, and you both oversee SBIR programs. One for NCATS, one for NCI. Can you talk about those and what that means to folks in the room and how you can help them and how they can get your money?
Right. So, I mean, just to put it in perspective, if you added up all of the institutes' budget in this program, you're talking about $1.4 billion that has to be programmed to U.S. small businesses in this life science space. And it's money that's linked to it's statutorily required, which means that, we can't reprogram that money for something else. So keep that in mind. I mean, we are always looking for great ideas that we can fund through the program. Each institute has a different focus in terms of what it funds in its portfolio. And of course, Michael can talk about what NCI funds, but this is why it's so important that if you're thinking about submitting a grant, that you talk to various institutes at the NIH for two reasons. One is, to understand what they're looking for, but keep in mind that, NIH is a big place. And I don't necessarily know everything that Michael is funding. So that's why it really behooves you to talk to each one of the program officers. So if you came to NCATS, I would say that we probably work in several buckets. One is we look for drug discovery and development tools. One of our success stories actually resides across the street at Novik, and that's AxoSim. We
He's right there.
Yes, and
so Merck and AxoSim are already very happy today.
Yeah, it was very much in our mission space, and we were very excited to fund it because it also was complementary to another program that we were funding in the tissue chip space. So we fund projects in that space, bioinformatics projects, especially tools and technologies that help you do research analysis more effectively, AI tools that help researchers, and also clinical research management tools. Things to help recruit for better clinical trials, create more diversity, IRB management, and some digital health. So, and we're disease agnostic. So sometimes it is worth having a conversation with us because your technology may be considered a platform technology, and that's very much of interest to us. But if you're working in a very specific disease, it may behoove you to talk to, example, Michael or the Neurology Institute, because there may be more targeted programs there. So I'll let Michael talk now, but I just wanted to give you guys a sense of the importance of talking to your program officer, various program officers at the NIH.
So just building off of Lili's point. So the way SBIR is set up, we, at least at the NCI, we have 3 different phases of funding that you're eligible for if you're a US-based small business. These are funding phases, not clinical phases. So our earliest stage of funding you can apply for is a phase 1 award. That's a proof of concept study. Every institute has different levels of funding that they offer at the NCI for a phase 1 project. Our budget cap is at $400,000 for that initial award. Typically, that's a 6 to 12 month project. Proof of concept study, kind of a sweet spot for us. If you're developing a drug, for example, would be at the lead optimization stage. But we'll go earlier than that sometimes, depending depending on the project. If the phase one is successful, then you can apply for the next stage of funding, which is phase two. Phase two is typically a 2 or 3 year long project. At the NCI, we allow companies to apply for up to $2 million in total funding there. Typically, if it's a drug, that would be IND enabling studies, trying to drive a drug towards an IND ultimately. And then if the project is still continuing following the phase two, then you can apply for our third phase of funding. We call it our Bridge Award program. And what's really unique about the Bridge Award is we actually created this program about 14 years ago. Wasn't a program like this at the NIH before, but the goal was we saw a lot of our companies, just with phase one and phase two funding, wasn't enough money to drive them to a key inflection point. So with the Bridge, we offer up to $4 million in additional funding. And what's really attractive about the Bridge is the way that program is set up is it sets up incentives and helps pull in private investors to invest jointly with the NCI on these projects. So there is a matching funds requirement where if you're going to request $4 million from the NCI, at that point, then we request that the small business have a fundraising plan that lays out who their private partners are going to be, who are going to be providing the funding. And what we found with that program is it's been very successful at pulling private investors in. We get about $4 for every dollar that we put into a project. Our companies are able to raise $4 from private investors. So it's been highly successful at getting projects into the clinic and also getting projects commercialized and out to patients. We have, I think we funded total 49 awards under that program over the last 14 years. 19 of those have actually commercialized and are now with patients. So that gives you a little bit of a picture on the funding side. The way I like to think about it with our program is we offer these great funding opportunities, but we also offer resources to our companies because, I mean, most of the startups, when they first come in, they're less than 5 people. So they need access to a lot of different resources. So I think of funding as necessary, but not sufficient for our companies to be successful. So happy to talk about some of those in the next few minutes. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Well, all three of you have been heavily engaged in both kind of whether you're intramural or extramural with both the academic community and the corporate world in your roles in different ways. What are some of the changes you've seen over the last decade or so and how those people interact? And what do you see as good things? What do you see as opportunities for improvement? What kind of general thoughts do you all have in that area? And Lili, let's start with you this time.
I think NCATS recognizes that NIH funding can't be the end all be all in getting a company through the valley of death and eventually, into a key inflection point. So we've developed other programs that are complementary to SBIR, TTR. I mean, I know the NCI has a couple of these too. They're like de-risking programs. And let me make this clear. They're not grant programs. They're actually resource programs. So for example, we have a program called the Bridges program. And when you come to Bridges, you have a lead identified. Any disease is eligible, any modality is eligible, with the exception of vaccines and devices. But let's say that you've cobbled together enough funding through private sources, government sources, and you kind of hit. And this happens a lot to our companies. They go to an pre-IND meeting and they find out that they need something else, right? Some key pivotal study. Mm-hmm. And that's really hard funding to just get on its own at the NIH, right? So we developed this program because the idea was that if you needed some data to get you to a key inflection point of filing an IND, we work with you, giving you the data. We work with our CROs. We work in conjunction with you with a project team to get you the data so that you can go ahead and get to that key inflection point of filing the IND and then, hopefully trying to bridge that gap. So there are various programs at the NIH that can be used complementary to what you get in standard funding and other collaborations like in the intramural program as well too. So good to check with the respective institute that you're talking to. Like I said, NCI has one, the Neurology Institute has one, and I think the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute has similar programs where they kind of help you where NIH funding is not appropriate or just can't meet that need of getting you to that through the valley of death. So yeah.
Joe, same question for you. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are a little different. My thoughts are different. Because I'm instrumental. What I'm seeing is as far as change is it's awareness. And so from the intramural side, we're kind of like the younger brother that gets left behind. Show of hands, just real quick. How many people in the audience were aware that they can license technology from the NIH? Okay, so that's about half of you. So for those of you who don't know, my question is why, right? And you don't have to answer now. It's just a rhetorical question. But my role at the National Cancer Institute in the marketing unit is primarily to go out and create awareness that companies can come to the NIH to license technology. Primarily, again, to start businesses around if you're an entrepreneur, or to expand an existing pipeline if you're an existing company. But if you're an existing company with your own technology, how many people were aware that NIH can help you validate that technology in a clinical setting? Show of hands. Nobody's hand is up, right? So again, awareness. I'm out here to promote awareness that companies can interface with the intramural side of NIH. No, we don't have money to give. Now, what we do provide is support, and it's a cost sharing type of situation. So if you're going to partner with us, collaborate with us on the development of a particular technology, you'll be required to put money in. We don't spend money out, but we do spend money on your behalf. So for example, if you're in a clinical trial with us, you're going to have to support that with some type of financing, whether it be to pay for a nurse or pay for some aspect of that clinical trial, but we pay for the trial, right? So we cover all of the costs of the trial, equipment, materials, that kind of thing. So that's money that you don't have to worry about spending in your burn rate, right? And we also have other programs that help facilitate the ease of licensing technology that, again, you're not aware of, but we can talk about that later. I don't want to take up too much time, but come talk to me after this session.
Yeah. And Michael, I want to throw a little context on this for you because I got to run into Michael last night at dinner at Paladar 511, which I recommend to all of y'all to eat at, one of our local favorites. But we were talking about something I didn't know about, and you all have a great program for it's either PhDs or postdocs trainees, where you actually help fund them to take things out of the universities, but you'll fund them inside the university to do that. Can you talk a bit about that? Because I bet folks here will be fascinated by that in ways they can help either augment their business outside by moving it forward or create their business.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's a great question.
Mike.
Sorry.
Mike.
Yeah, so we actually set up right before COVID, as a matter of fact, we set up a university academic entrepreneurship group with different universities across the country. And one of the things universities were telling us is that there wasn't a great accessible source of funding for them when they had a promising technology that they were trying to move out of the university to a company. There wasn't a clear path for them to get support both on the funding side, but also mentorship for the investigator that was working on the technology. So in response to that, we created this program. We call it our Small Business Transition Grant, SBTG. And the way this program works is postdocs, they have to create a partnership with a company, but they can apply for the SBIR funding and still stay at the university. And it's what we call a fast track program. So a fast track means it's a combined phase 1, phase 2, STTR and SBIR. And I know that's a lot of acronyms, but essentially what it means is The postdoc will get that initial phase one money, that up to $400,000, to continue the development of that technology while they're still at the university. And in addition, they can request funds that will cover both a business mentor and a technical mentor to support them as they're developing that technology on the technical side, but also helping them build their business and commercial strategy around that technology. So the idea is that phase ones typically are about a year's period of time. So that first year, they'll stay at the university, continue their work on the technology. They have to identify in their applications a business mentor, a technical mentor to advise them. As that phase one comes to an end after about a year, then they make that transition to a company, and they bring the technology with them. And then we continue funding the development of that technology while they're at the business. And we also continue funding the technical and the business mentor. So the goal is to provide both funding and training, mentorship to really support the needs of that team as they are making that transition. And one of the things, I guess we've had 2 receipt cycles so far. We're probably getting about 25 applications for each receipt date so far. And I think part of the issue is we need to create more awareness about that funding program. A lot of folks don't know about it yet, but I think it's a very attractive opportunity for anyone who kind of falls in that space where, it's a postdoc is kind of playing this lead role, and you're looking for the funding and the support to transition it. So if you are interested in it, learning more about it, happy to chat with you about the program and advise on whether you're a good fit for it.
And remember, they're all available to steal for one-on-one partnering at some point over the next few days. Please fire away. Yeah.
My question is this only for cancer research or all types of research?
So the question I'll repeat real quick is it just for cancer research or all types of research, so Ian doesn't yell at me?
Yeah, so we're the first ones to have started this program. So because it's at the NCI, it's just cancer right now. But other institutes at the NIH are probably going to launch a similar program. They just haven't done it quite yet. But if you're in the cancer space, we're happy to talk to you about your project that might be a good fit for it.
Ruben.
Thank you very much. Super interesting. As a matter of fact, I had this conversation with USC 2 days ago about funding some of the postdocs to help spin up a company from the investment side. I'm under that investment group. You didn't mention this, but do I presume all of this is non-dilutive to the company?
Yeah. So if it's an SBIR award, this in one in particular, it's a grant fund, and it's an SBIR grant. So it's non-dilutive. We take no equity in the company. The IP is owned by the small business also. The postdoc does have to have a relationship with a small business still in order to apply. But again, the postdoc for the phase one part of the project, they can still be at the university.
And if you're looking at that, Ruben, we have better food in the Gulf South. So skip LA and come over here. I got lots of innovation folks in the room who are dying to talk to you now. Any other questions from the audience? I have questions, but I want y'all's. You came here for a reason. Yeah, Clay.
For that bridge program, when you say that the postdoc has to be affiliated with a small company, does that have to be the small company that will ultimately house the technology, or is it just a small company that can help mentor them and get them to the point where they can form their own company?
I think we're looking for probably the best relationship is going to be that they've identified a company that is is the right company to continue to develop that technology and ultimately get it closer to commercialization. So we're looking for the strength of the company also, and having some background in that space that the technology is really focused on. And those projects all go through peer review at the NIH, just like every SBIR project would. So, you're looking at the strength of the team, You're looking at the track record of both the team and the company, the approach. Do they actually have a good commercialization strategy? Because that'll be a key part of the review, at least of the phase 2 part of the application. So all those pieces are important.
Could you elaborate a little bit on what makes a strong commercialization strategy?
Yeah, so being able to identify that there's an unmet need in the marketplace, and the competitive advantage that the technology would have over what the current state of the art is. It can be a smaller market, as an example. It doesn't have to be a huge market. I mean, if you can establish that there's a big patient or research need that's not currently being met, that's fine. But you also should be able to show that there's some innovation in the technology. It's an improvement over what's currently available. And one of the cool things with that small business transition grant is once you get into our program, once you get a phase 1 under our program, every team that gets one of those small business transition grants will actually go through a program we run at NIH. It's called the I-Core program or Innovation Core program, which is an 8-week program that really teaches a company that's primarily made up of scientists. It teaches them how to build a business strategy around that technology. And the way it does that is teams that go through that program actually have to go out and they have to interview potential customers, stakeholders, people who are kind of experts in the given field that technology is in. And that whole process really helps the teams understand where the best market fit is for the technology that they're working on. And we offer that not only for that program, but we offer the I-Core program for every phase 1 awardee that goes through our program.
So you offer it or you require them to go through it as a condition of that award?
For that particular, for small business transition grant, we actually do require that everyone go through the I-Core program.
And Michael, you just mentioned
and there's funding that goes with it.
right. You just mentioned the possibility of clinical translation and reaching patients, which brings to mind potentially, Lili, are there dovetail programs where somebody gets somebody into this program at Michael's? Should they immediately come to you and start talking to you about some of the translational aspects? And are there programs that could sync really well? And it may be something you've thought of already at NCATS or maybe not, but is that a possibility?
Yeah, I think it's those 2 programs that I was telling you about, the Bridges program, and that one gets you to the point of filing an IND, and then we disengage. But then there's another one that we have that focuses on rare and neglected diseases that actually goes up to a phase 2A clinical trial. And that's also a resource program, not a grant program, but a resource program that you can access, and we'll do a gap analysis to determine what it is that you need, and work with our CROs. We have internal med chemists that help, process chemists as well. And again, just to get you to this key inflection point that's different. Aside from the typical NIH funding, these are just resource programs that exist. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let me add to that. So the intramural program kind of can overlap with the extramural program from a grant funding perspective, in that a company can actually in-license one of our technologies and then move it into an SBIR program. Right. So there's a possibility for that. And if you're a startup company, I'll just go through this program real quick that the intramural program has for NCI technologies only. It's our Startup 2.0 program. And so if you are a startup company and you are less than 5 years old, have less than $5 million raised in the round, and have 50 employees, you qualify for this program. And what this program allows you to do is in-license an NIH technology, an NCI technology, for $5,000 upfront royalty, a $5,000 execution fee, right? And then you hold on to that. It's a limited commercialization exclusive license. You can hold on to that for a year. And if you want to renew that, you can renew for another $5,000. And then at the end of the second year, If you want to continue to maintain that technology, you enter into a full-blown license for that technology. Now, the benefit of that is, first, it's $10,000 over a 2-year period, and most companies can put that on their credit card. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, during that 2-year process, the NIH will cover the patent cost associated with that particular technology that you've licensed. Okay, so there's a benefit from that perspective because you don't have to worry about the patent costs coming out of your burn rate. Okay, and it's only $10,000. So, and then at the end of that, if you continue it at year 3 with the full-blown license, the terms of that license are negotiated, so you can, negotiate the terms to front end or back end, whatever royalty payments or whatever payments are required. So just to throw that out there from a consideration perspective.
We've got just about 4 minutes left. Any other questions from the audience? If not, yeah, please, fire away.
So for the NCI support for small businesses, how are the funds distributed between, say, therapeutics, diagnostics, and biotech tools?
Great question.
Yeah, so our about 42% of our projects are therapeutics. About 15% are diagnostics. Another 10% are device related, like imaging technologies or radiation therapy. Maybe 8% are in the tools area, and 8 to 10% are in the digital health area, thereabouts.
Sounds like you were ready for that question.
I've gotten it before.
But
Are you targeting those percentages, or is that just a reflection of the applications that you get?
Yes, that's a great question. So probably about 80% of our budget goes towards investigator initiated projects that are in response to companies coming in under what we call the SBIR omnibus solicitation, which is it's essentially a catch-all funding and opportunity announcement that NIH comes out with every year. All the institutes at the NIH participate in the omnibus. Mm-hmm. And essentially, if it's in the cancer space or in one of the other institutes' spaces, and if it's focused on the development of a commercial product, it'll probably fit under the omnibus. We reserve about 20% of the budget to come out with more targeted funding announcements where the NCI identifies emerging technology areas that we think are prime for the small business community. And we come out with contract funding opportunity announcements that are very targeted, that are milestone based, and that really are looking to kind of seed the development of these, what we think are very promising areas. And then we'll actually reserve funds just for those targeted topic areas.
And just to be clear, that's a separate solicitation from the regular omnibus solicitation that exists there. The contract topic one is once a year, and the omnibus is 3 receipt dates during the year. But keep in mind that there's also targeted grant solicitations, right? Some of them are RFAs that have money actually set aside to cover specific grant topics as well. So it's not just the omnibus, but there may be some specific topics that you could look for that have some money set aside for them as well.
Nice. We have just about 90 seconds left, so I'm going to wrap up real quick and encourage everyone to grab them. So 30 seconds each. What's the one thing you want people to take away from today that you feel like they don't know about you that they should, or your agency?
Yes. So first off, I think Lili said this, if you're interested in applying to one of our programs, then reach out and talk to us about your idea so that we can give you some advice on it, tell you whether it's a good fit, and really help steer you in the right direction. We'll actually review specific aims on your project and give you advice on that. What the other thing I would mention is another new program that we launched a year ago. We call it our SBIR Concept Award. And what's really unique about this, it's focused on high risk, high reward technology development in the areas of pediatric and rare cancers. And what's also unique is we don't require any preliminary data for that program. So we're looking for out of the box ideas, new approaches for how you would both detect and treat pediatric and rare cancers. Very challenging area. So if you're doing anything in either of those areas, please let me know.
Lili.
hey, we're here to serve you guys, right? No, I mean, all kidding aside, I mean, our performance is based on, the types of grants that we fund and trying to get outreach into our programs. So please take advantage of it. And it's a significant amount of money and it's geared towards life sciences. And we're always looking for good ideas, and please talk to your program officer.
And Joe, our hometown boy, take us home.
Yeah, real quick. If you're looking for technology to in-license or bring into your company, or you'd like assistance with validating that technology, possibly in a clinical setting, call me. All right.
Likes being called.
Yeah, give me a call. Happy to discuss it with you here or online or wherever. Just, reach out to us and we can share the intramural side of NIH for you guys. And I think you'll be happy with what you find.
So I'm hearing that the millennials want to talk to you. They're going to have to pick up the phone.
They can text me.
They can text. Oh, you'll text.
They
Great.
can text me.
And I know I saw hands, but these guys are available for the whole event. Find them for a one-on-one meeting or grab them at the reception, beautiful courtyard. And with that, we'll transition over to our scientific speakers. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.